Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature. Today's presentation, Travel Video 101, Filming Your Next Nature Adventure, is brought to you by filmmaker Andrew Ackerman, founder of the documentary production company Off the Map Media. Andrew, it's a pleasure to have you here today. The show is yours. Take it away.
Thanks so much, Rob, and thanks so much, everyone, for joining. This is my first webinar, so bear with me. I'm not a professional explainer the way that all your amazing guides are, but I'm going to do my best, and we're going to save a lot of time at the end for questions. I want to chat with everyone about video. My background briefly, I've been a documentary filmmaker for 12 years. I've made several features. The biggest project I've worked on is a film on Netflix called Chasing Coral, and I do so much of the video work with Nat Hab. We have a whole team now, which is awesome. It used to just be me, but now there's a super talented team of us that travel around the world getting footage and telling stories on Nat Hab trips. This is going to be a dip your toe into video. Every single thing we talk about could be its own semester-long course at a film school. So the idea behind this is just to see if this is something that you're interested in, because I get asked so often on trips and at home how to shoot better video, why to shoot video. And if it's something you're interested in, there's this wonderful thing, YouTube University, where you can basically learn any skill for free. And again, bring questions at the end of this. So to begin with, we're going to talk a little bit about why and how to capture video, and the how is where we'll really kind of get into the nitty gritty. But just to begin with, why capture video at all? Where everyone sees video every single day, so we know that it's extremely dynamic. It's a very effective form of storytelling. So is photography. They're just different art forms, right? Photography is extremely powerful at capturing a moment in time that can be meaningful, powerful, emotive, all those things. Video is great at telling a story because you just have more time with something. And it's just it's just a different art form. It's fun. It's fun to show people video. Same with photography, but it's a wonderful way to be able to show your friends what your trip was, or to capture things because it tickles a creative button. The challenges to video, and we'll get into a bunch of those. The first one is just this mindset. It's the mindset challenge. It's a barrier to entry. A lot of people are afraid of video, and a lot of photographers are afraid of video. I have a lot of photographer friends we've spent a long time talking about like how to make the switch, why would they want to make the switch. So the first one's the mindset thing, which we're going to talk very tangible steps on your mindset for recording great video. The second one is stabilization, literally keeping the camera stable. With photography, right, you can have your camera and you can snap, 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 and you just need one of those to be clear. With video, that has to be stable the whole time, right? This video is not fun. And that's a challenge. That's a very real challenge. And it also, it's a very real challenge depending on where you're trying to capture video. Standing still versus in a safari vehicle, right? So we'll talk about some tips and tricks for that as well. And then lastly, we're just going to touch briefly on editing. That again, like I said at the beginning, that could be its own college course. It is its own college course. There's a ton to do there, and there's a ton of stuff on YouTube, but it's a huge barrier to entry for people. So I'm going to walk you through a very quick explainer of how I organize footage when I get back from a trip, which will just help everyone take a big breath and not be scared of it. But before we jump into any of this, let's watch a video. Rob, let's play video number 1. This is just for everyone. This is footage I shot in Iceland 3 years ago that we turned into an experience reel, which is what Nat Hab, how we show what a trip is like. Awesome. Thanks, Rob. So we're going to now talk about how to capture video. We're going to talk about the techniques. We're going to talk about the equipment. And again, we'll touch on editing. And we're going to break all this down. Everything we talk about are things that were used to create that video and everything we make. So first off, people like to start with equipment. It's not as important as techniques and mindset. So we're going to do that second, even though it's fun to talk about gear. To begin with, mindset. What is, when you go on to, when you're starting a trip, right? I'm joining an Iceland trip and I want to leave with that. What's the mindset I go into it with? The first thing that comes to mind is capture a scene. And what does that mean? It means wide, medium, and tight, right? It's easy when there's a lot of new things, when you're trying video for the first time, you're with new people, you're in a new place, that's easy to get overwhelmed. So wide, medium, and tight becomes a mantra of how do I capture what I'm seeing? Get wide shots, medium shots, tight shots. If I am watching two people, if we're at an incredible waterfall in Iceland, I want to walk up the cliff 20 feet and get a shot where I can see their body. I can see the waterfall cascading behind them. I can see the surrounding area. I can see the other tourists, the other travelers looking at the waterfall. That's my wide. Then I want to come in close and I want to see a medium shot, which is kind of like, belly button to just above the head of them looking at the waterfall. This is where you're going to see facial expressions, right? This is where like the awe, the mist, you can capture that, but you can still see them in the landscape. Then I want to go tight. Maybe it's a shot of their hand on a railing with all of this mist flying and hitting it, right? Maybe it's them holding hands because they're partners. Maybe it's someone looking through binoculars or looking through a camera. Wide, medium, tight is capturing a scene. For any photographers in the audience, you already know how to do this. All you have to do converting photography skills to video skills is take your photo, but just press record and hold the camera for a few more seconds, right? It's a really easy shift for photographers because you've already practiced framing, composition, lighting, subject. For non-photographers, no problem. We watch so much video every day that everyone these days has a really high level of video knowledge, whether you know it or even believe it or not. We know what looks good and what doesn't look good. Wide, medium, tight. So if you're trying to go on your next trip, this is the first place to start. What is your mindset? It's easy to get overwhelmed, so don't do that. Wide, medium, tight. The next thing with mindset, with wide, medium, tight, is you want to capture people, places, and wildlife. It's really easy, especially on a wildlife trip, especially on like an African safari. It's really easy to just focus on the wildlife. And that's great. If that's what you want, awesome. We'll talk about that. We'll talk some of the tools and tricks to do that. But if you want to tell the story of a place, like that Iceland reel it kind of gives you a pretty great example of what it feels like to be on that Iceland trip. And if that's what you want to do, you want to capture all three of those things. And all three of those things you want to capture wide, medium, tight. So it's just your running mantra as you're going. Another technique here that is really simple is slow motion. Slow motion is your friend. We're going to talk about equipment. We're going to talk about all the things you need to do this. And I have a lot of other props. But slow motion is your friend. So when we get to cameras, we'll talk a little bit about like the specs you want, just very broadly, very generally. But slow motion, 97% of the shots in there were slow motion. And that's helpful to smooth your camera out, right? Because it's, again, stabilization is a challenge. And it just feels nice to watch. Watching a waterfall in slow motion is, I think we can all get behind. That's a very relaxing thing, and it just helps things feel more cinematic. Okay, now I've been lucky enough to go on a bunch of Nat Hab photography trips, and one of the most underrated things that people end up photographing on trips, and same with video, is people in places. We were talking about that with capturing a scene. I'm going to show some clips here in a sec. Rob, this will be clip number 2 of people in places. And this is from Greenland and from Alaska. And I want you to see what having people there adds to the shot. It adds scale, right? It adds perspective. It adds a feeling that's a little bit intangible of like, ooh, that could be me. I want to be there, or I was there. That is powerful when you're showing your friends. It's hard to show someone just an iceberg 10 times and have them really stick with you. But you can play it now, Rob. But when you can show footage with people in it, it gives you a sense of scale. So this is just a collection of shots that I just grabbed this week to just show you people in places. Sense of adventure. It puts other human beings in this place that we care so much about. That's a couple of Greenland shots, and then here's some Alaska footage. Like seeing the bear is awesome. Everyone wants photos and video of the bear. Seeing the bear with people adds a whole new dimension, right? Like seeing how close this person is to these bears. The facial expressions, like it just, you want this in addition to the stuff that is classically, that we're classically going after. The sunrises in Alaska and Greenland, the close-up of the bear, the whale fluke disappearing. Like we want those shots. We also want these people shots. This is one of those things that most people when they start leave out because the place they're in and the wildlife they're seeing is so spectacular. It's easy to forget the people around you from a photographic or video standpoint, but it's a thing that will immediately place your filming and videos above a lot, and it's very doable. Getting a long lens, stable video shot of the bear from a technical and equipment standpoint can be challenging. Getting a shot of your friend seeing the bear is often much more doable to get really well, to get really stable, to get really clean. So capturing people in places. So we've got capturing a scene, we've got people, places, wildlife, we've got slow motion, and then we've seen some examples of people in places. Okay, now we're going to talk about traveling and shooting light. And what I mean by that is less stuff. This is light. This not. You want to travel with this, not this. We'll get to equipment again, like I said, but I have an example. When I was in Alaska, I was filming bears. You saw some of the footage, and at the same time as I was there, this film crew from Japan was there. They had $100,000 worth of equipment. I had $7,000 worth of equipment. It took 3 people to carry their tripod and camera from place to place. I was with someone else. We each had a small little tripod this big and cameras this big. And their equipment was incredible. Don't get me wrong. I'd like to have it in my closet. But their viewpoint was so much more limited than ours. We were able to move around constantly because we were traveling light. That's especially true for you wonderful folks who are going on vacation. You do not want to be lugging this around when you could have this in your pocket, right? So travel and shoot light, it's not just a convenience thing. It's actually a mindset that can yield wonderful cinematic results. Okay, we're going to talk briefly a little cinematography, a tiny mini cinematography course, and then we're going to jump into a bunch of equipment stuff. The reason that video is so cool to watch is because it's more dynamic oftentimes than a single photo. Dynamic does not mean better. It does not mean more enjoyable. It does not mean it's more interesting. It just has more going on in it. So we're going to talk about 3 different styles of cinematography that you can incorporate all 3 of, which you'll have retroactively noticed in that Iceland reel, and we'll show more examples where you can kind of pay attention to those kinds of shots. The first one, and Rob, I think this is the next clip number 3. This is static camera, static subject. Okay, so I'm on a tripod here with a long lens looking at a big, beautiful male bear in Alaska. It's a really cool shot, right? He's crisp, he's eating grass. There's nothing wrong with this, but it's a static camera and a static subject. Okay, the next dynamic level is static camera and moving subject. And when I say static camera, that doesn't mean it's not panning or tilting. It just means the camera is not moving physically, which from a stabilization standpoint is much easier, right? A tripod can pan and tilt, a video tripod. It cannot just get up and move. So example number 2, which is clip number 4, Rob. This is a tripod shot panning with a moving subject. So static camera, moving subject. Again, all 3 of these are from Alaska. This bear sees another bear, starts running. You see planes in the background. And then all I'm doing is moving the tripod with the bear and tracking. Awesome. Thanks, Rob. The third tier of dynamic level is moving camera, moving subject. This is the hardest from a stabilization standpoint, and this is where gimbals come in play. This is both of these that I've been holding up and demonstrating, which again I'll show you. These are gimbals, and a gimbal is something simply that when you turn it on, this stays level no matter what motion is happening, right? So this is one of the ways that we get stable video. So let's play the next clip, Rob. I think it's number 5. This is moving camera, moving subject. So I'm now in a vehicle driving next to this bear, filming the bear as it's walking. Cool reflection. I'm on a very bumpy beach. You cannot tell because of that gimbal motion. Now, those things, again, doesn't mean one is better than the other. I mean, clip number 2 is really interesting because this bear's running, right? Clip number 1 could have been 2 bears sparring and still have been that level 1. But the more dynamic a shot, the more stability becomes an issue. So it's just a good thing to know. If you're driving in a car and you want to get a shot out the window, there are going to be certain techniques and equipment you're going to want to do that with, versus if you're just standing still, you can kind of do it with anything. Awesome. All right, now let's jump into gear and equipment. So the thing I get asked the most, the question I get asked the most is, what's the best camera I should use? It's this single question I get asked most often. There's a wonderful quote that addresses this. The best camera is the one you have with you. I was in Australia a year and a half ago. I was filming a platypus, and I have my professional camera and this long lens, and it's across the river. I'm getting gorgeous slow-mo shots that someone with an iPhone couldn't get because I'm zoomed way in, right? Then the platypus swam up to my feet. It was at my feet. I could not film it. And the guy next to me gets this incredible shot with his iPhone because he could just hold it over the platypus. So there's no such thing as a best camera. So take that pressure off of yourself. The best one is the one you have with you, which also translates to the one that you can use and is easiest for you to bring with you and enjoyable for you to use. You could go out and buy the most expensive camera that those Japanese filmmakers in Alaska had, but if you're never bringing it on a trip, it's not the best camera. So with that, we're going to talk through a bunch of different kinds of cameras, or more like camera categories. But first off, in terms of a camera, there's a few things from a specification standpoint that I would be looking for. These days, I would get something that can record 4K, just because everything modern and new should be able to record 4K. That's the resolution. That's how big the image it can capture. I would get something that can record slow motion, 2.5 to 5 times slow motion, which is either 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second. So we want it to be big enough to be nice and clear on our modern screens. We want it to be able to record slow motion. And the last thing I'd look for is something called built-in image stabilization, or in-body image stabilization. It's also referred to as IBIS. iPhones have them, GoPros have them, most modern mirrorless cameras have them to some extent. Incredibly useful. So let's move to the iPhone or smartphone. This is one of the best cameras, and if you, this is not a gear pitch for me to tell you to go buy gear. I was talking about iPhones. This is not a gear pitch. I just want to explain things. This is an incredible camera. It's easy to keep stable. This is not heavy, right? It's easy to keep stable. It's got slow motion. It shoots 4K. It's got built-in. It hits all those boxes. So I do not want to discourage anyone. This is such an incredible tool for video. I always shoot horizontal. I'm team horizontal. I'm not team vertical. This is wonderful for so many things. But for wildlife, for what we're talking about, I would encourage everyone to record like this. Cannot speak highly enough of smartphones now. They are so useful and so good, and you can make a version of what we showed you with this easily. This is my workhorse. This is what I use the most. This is a small mirrorless camera. This one specifically is the Sony a7S III. This camera is 5 years old. Like it's still incredible. Most of the footage in that Iceland was shot on this. There's lots of different versions. There's Sony, Nikon, Canon. Those are the big ones. There's Fuji. They're all great, honestly. Again, you can go to YouTube to see 1,000,001 reviews and comparisons. But this camera is wonderful, and I think is still a good option for Nat Hab travelers because it's the size of a photography camera. If I'm shooting video with this, what I will do is put this around, pull against the strap, keep my elbows in right here. A lot of the stuff you saw was, even though it looked still, was not on a tripod. It was handheld, but not here, right? I'm creating a triangle here that's very stable, and you can shorten this and you could put an arm through, and you could do it however you need to do it. But you create a very stable base with this camera that then you can go back and keep walking, right? And then you can keep hiking with the group and go, ooh, that's a cool shot. Boom, right? Rock solid, very stable. I highly recommend this and the iPhone. There are lots of other kinds of cameras. There are what we call cinema cameras. This is a cinema camera. This is not fun to go on safari with. I will tell you from experience. This is not fun to go on an Iceland or Greenland kayak with. This is for professional filmmakers. It requires permits. Everyone looks at you funny. You're not incognito. It's heavy. Don't go that route. Don't let anyone convince you to go that route. This or this is my, this would be my upper limit for enjoying a vacation but still capturing video. Because at the end of the day, if you come home with all the best video but you didn't enjoy your vacation, then what's the point, right? So we want to keep everything within the container of, this is a vacation, this is not your job, we're going to enjoy this. That's a mirrorless camera. Now for gimbals. I've already pulled out this beast a couple times. This is the one I use. This is the same kind of camera, but it's much heavier, it's much bigger. This one, again, you need film permits, it requires, it's heavy, you get a lot of funny looks. I use this because it's my job, but I would not recommend anyone use this. If you want a gimbal, this is called the DJI Osmo 3. It turns on that way. Now I'm recording myself. This is so easy. You can put it in your pocket when you are driving in the car, when you're flying out of a small plane, when your group is getting in a helicopter, when you're in safari. Like, this is such a wonderful way to solve the stability challenge and put it in your pocket, right? It's cheap, it's easy, the footage is awesome. It can shoot slow, it has all those things. It has its own stabilization because it's a gimbal. It has 4K, it has slow motion. Like, it checks all of those boxes. And that's why I'm going to keep coming back to it. I would keep looking for things that check all those boxes and are as small and easy as possible. This kit is a wonderful way to travel and a wonderful way to enjoy your vacation. The bigger you go, the harder it is. As a quick tripod example, just for fun, this is my travel tripod. It's the size of a water bottle. It's carbon fiber. It's very light. I love traveling with this. My professional tripod is this monster. I don't love traveling with this. If I have to have a really, big zoom lens and get bear footage from far away, then that's the tripod I'm going to use. It's not fun to travel with. Hiking with that is not fun. So go light. The next thing the next gear thing is memory cards and hard drives. For those who do photography, many of you might be used to bringing 2 memory cards for your whole trip, right? And you leave your photos on. When you get home, you dump your memory cards, you start editing. With video, you might need more. Or what I do is I bring a really small little hard drive, and every night I put my footage onto it and I label it for that day. Super easy, super quick, because you're going to need that card every day to be refreshed. So I download my footage on it. I bring 2 hard drives that I duplicate, and I delete the cards, and then the next day I go. It's tough to get a lot of video. Your phones have a lot of storage, and you can get one easy memory card for this that you probably can get away with not doing so much. But I wanted to at least mention it because you might have to do some experimenting with seeing how much you shoot and how much memory you use. Before we jump into another example of an experience reel where you all can take everything I've shared and kind of watch for it, I want to talk about recording lengths. A common habit when you first start doing video is, I got my camera, ooh, something's happening, record. 5 minutes go by and then I stop recording. Part of capturing a scene, part of mindset is record in small bursts, right? If you're shooting slow motion, if you're shooting at 60 frames per second, which is 2.5 times slow motion, then 2.5 seconds is 5 seconds when it's slowed down, right? If you're shooting 5 times slow motion, 2 seconds of recording is a 10-second clip. So that 5 minutes that you just hit record, if that was 5 times slow motion, that's now a 25-minute clip. That is a lot for memory, and it's a lot for your future editor self, which we'll talk about. So shoot in short clips. If it's slow motion, I'd say 2 to 8 seconds. If it's normal motion, I'd say 5 to 15 seconds. And the only time I'll go longer is if something incredible is happening. Like the Iceland example I got you of people are by a waterfall. Those are all going to be 5-second, 8-second clips. A lion is taking down a gazelle. I'm going to record the whole thing because this is crazy. So there are some exceptions to that. But again, travel light, shoot light, travel with minimal gear, and shoot in small clips. All of this will make video feel much more manageable. So much of this is a mindset. That's why I keep coming back to the mindset of this. Okay, now we're going to show another video. I want you to look for capturing a scene, so a variety of shots, right? It's not the same kind of shot. It's wide, it's mediums, it's tights. I want you to pay attention to how short the clips are. Now this isn't an edit, so it's a little bit shorter than you'd actually record, but because they're in slow motion, they don't feel too quick, but they are pretty short. A lot of what we use are 2 to 4 seconds in any kind of edit is kind of the typical length for video clips. So that's why that 25-minute clip, that's a lot of work in the editing room that you're never going to show 25 minutes of one clip. You're going to do lots of shorter clips. And then lastly, pay attention to what having people in this adds to this as a feel. There's going to be some great wildlife and some cool landscape, but pay attention to what you feel when you see people in those places or with those animals. Awesome. Rob, would you mind playing the last clip? Awesome. Okay, the last thing we're going to do before we jump into a bunch of questions, hopefully a bunch of questions, is I'm going to show you briefly a little editing. Very little. Again, there's so much in YouTube that you can learn. I just want to give you a little bit of how I organize footage, because that's one of the hardest things to do. And that's also something that people don't talk about that much. Rob, would you let it so I can share my screen? I'm unable to right now. And everyone, don't get overwhelmed by what you see. I'm gonna talk through all of it. This is from the Iceland shoot. Awesome. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
We're seeing it, yes, sir.
Awesome. Okay, so this is from Iceland. This is 1 day of shooting. So what I do is I'm using a program called Premiere. There's tons of programs out there. They can all do very similar things. And again, if you have access to one, if there's one that's cheaper than Premiere, YouTube University will teach you how to use it. But they all can do a function of what is down here, which is where you actually put the edit together. I put everything from one single day onto, this is called a timeline. And this is I just want to show you this one thing. These are all these different levels. I just raise the stuff I like the most up to the highest level. When footage is in here, actually, I can show you what this looks like to show you why I do it differently. We're gonna open this. This is not helpful for a video editor, a bin full of clips. And a lot of programs tell you to, or give it to you this way, or you start looking at things. This is overwhelming. I don't know what's what. So instead of that, I bring all of those clips into one timeline, and then I just raise up things I like. If I think it's okay, we can play this clip. If I think it's okay, I put it on the bottom level, or I raise it up 1. If I think it's spectacular, which I think this clip is spectacular, I bring it to the very top, and everything kind of in between. That way you can really quickly, when you're putting this together, go, oh, let me grab all of my best clips. Okay, let me grab my best clips and my next few best clips. Great. And everything's organized and neat, and you brought it up. Again, I know that there's so much with editing, and for people who have never edited any of a video, this might be a little overwhelming. We can talk about questions. But when you're learning, this is such a helpful place to start, because that bin, this is overwhelming and this is not helpful. And clicking on each one of these and opening them is not helpful. Whereas this is a visual representation of the day. This is, I know what happened. We got to this place, we started recording, we started changing our angles, we started getting creative. Like I can see what happens throughout the course of the day. Yes, let me stop sharing my screen. There we go. So yeah, I know that I covered a lot of width with not a lot of depth. So we have some time for questions. And again, I just wanted to give you the littlest, like hopefully be realistic, but also explain like why video is a fun thing and why it's worth trying, without going too deep into any one thing. So thank you so much for having me. I'd love to answer your questions. I'm really grateful for being able to share this with you. Yeah, back to you, Rob. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. So before we dive into the questions, I would like to remind everyone that if you do have questions, please feel free to submit them via the question field in your control panel. Just go to the upper right-hand corner and you'll find the question field right up there. So one more time, can you tell us what your preferred camera is?
Yes, so I use a mirrorless camera. I use a small mirrorless camera because it does have some quality and features that the iPhone does not, but it's still very travelable, and I look like a tourist when I'm bringing this. I can go anywhere in the world with this and not get any questions asked, and not have to just worry about what it looks like when you're a professional film crew. I can also change lenses. I can put much longer lenses. I can put this on a tripod. This is my preferred camera, and this is what I use professionally. And a lot of what I get is handheld with the neck strap, like I showed you.
So let's talk about lenses for a second. Do you have a preference for lenses for shooting video? What should I be bringing?
Sure, it's tools for the job. Like a preference is, I use Sony, so I have a bunch of Sony lenses. It's what do you need to capture? So we talked about people, places, and wildlife. People and places are the easiest things to go out and capture with this, and with this. If wildlife comes close, awesome. Like a lot of the gorilla footage was me on the ground next to gorillas with this camera. Bears, you're going to want a longer lens, right? But then to stabilize a longer lens, you're going to want a bigger tripod or a heavier gimbal, right? Like this. So it really depends on where you're going, what you're trying to film, and how you're trying to capture it. So most places, most Nat Hab trips, you can capture people and wildlife with these kind of simple tools, or the eye. I keep holding up that camera, but with these simple tools, most places you can capture people and wildlife. To get that long, remember that the dynamic example number 1 where the bears kind of fill in the frame. Those I needed a longer lens, at 7200 to 600 to 400 to 800, 300 prime. Like these are all lenses we use. But you need then you're hiking around sometimes with this thing, right? So it really depends on where you're going and what you're filming, and how far away from you that thing will be.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. I know some cameras are different. One of our guests has a mirrorless Canon that has a selector for either movie or still, but there's a button near the shutter that they can hold just to start video. Is there a difference between the two settings? Any idea?
I don't know. Unfortunately, there are so many different camera companies. They're all great. Like I don't pick sides. But in terms of like one specific feature on one specific camera model, I can tell you everything about this camera model, but other ones, like I don't shoot on Canon. I bet there's some quick settings that I think you'd have to deep dive the settings and to figure that one out. I'm so sorry.
Not to worry. So let's talk about the little gimbal you keep holding up. Everyone wants to know what the brand is, what it's called, how much it costs, because there's a lot of interest in that.
DJI Osmo Pocket 3. I think the full kit was maybe $800. I think I got it at Costco, but it's on Amazon or B&H. Yeah, this thing is awesome. I cannot recommend this enough. I use this a lot, even though I lug the heavy one. When we have travel days, when I'm like, oh, we're gonna fly in this really cool little plane, I just whip this out, and it's fantastic. So DJI Osmo Pocket 3.
Thank you so much for that. You've just made a lot of people happy. Does Apple have a native video editing program on the iPhone, or is it easier for us beginners to use? Any advice on editing from a cell phone?
Great question. So iMovie should be Apple's native, and I think I'm almost positive. I'm 99% positive you can get it on an iPhone. I don't use it. I find editing on a phone a little bit tough, but I believe iMovie is the one you'd go with. And I bet that they've solved for a lot of what I would assume would be difficult on a phone, because yeah, then you can shoot with your phone, and then at night after dinner start editing and play with stuff and keep it all pretty simple. So I don't use it, so I'm not extremely familiar, but I know that iMovie is Apple's editor.
All right, so let's talk about what is it that the Pocket Osmo can do for us that say the iPhone can't.
Great. So okay, the iPhone has built-in image stabilization, right? That in-body, that IBIS we talked about, that you want cameras to have. And what that means is that it can keep a little bit of motion stable, right? It can keep a little bit of motion stable, because the way that the lenses, they kind of like float around in there. So a little bit of movement is not a big deal for this. This does not have in-body stabilization. This is a gyroscopic stabilized gimbal. So like if I take this and tilt it, the image is going to tilt. If I take this and tilt it, you can see this has stayed the exact same, right? So like this is not moving. The image is not changing on this. So it's just it's a different level in terms of stabilization. If I'm in a bumpy vehicle, it will be better than without stabilization, like GoPro. Same with we didn't really talk about GoPro, but GoPro is very similar to your iPhone. It's got incredible in-body stabilization. It does not compare though to what this can do, right? Like this, you could just see this. I don't want to make anyone sick. You can just see this stay stable the whole time. So gimbals are a step above in-body stabilization, just in a meaningful way.
Gotcha. It's really cool. Thank you for that. Do you ever shoot in water? Can you use the gimbal in that case?
Great question. I do shoot in the water. I have an underwater housing for this. It's pretty big. I have a big old dome for it. It's pretty big. It's very expensive, but that's actually the first job I had was on this film Chasing Coral on Netflix. It was all underwater. So yes, you can shoot underwater, but the housings are large and expensive and difficult to travel with. Gimbals, to mine, tech changes so quickly. I'm trying to think about it. I don't think you can use a gimbal underwater just by the nature of how that works. But GoPro is your underwater camera for sure. Buy the newest GoPro model. They're $300, $400. They're good up to like 30 feet. Some of them maybe with a case up to 100 feet. They have slow motion, 4K. They're really good at in-body stabilization. Underwater, it's even more important to shoot slow motion because there's, I can stand here and hold my camera here. But I cannot, in the water, there's ocean movement, there's kinetic movement happening. So that in-body stabilization is incredibly important. And I would go GoPro over cell phone 10 days of the week. They've just been doing it for a long time. 10 days of the week doesn't make sense. Every day of the week, I'd go GoPro instead of cell phone. You can get a bag for your cell phone, but it's clunky. GoPro is designed for this. So that would be my cheap, simple underwater camera of choice for sure.
Gotcha. So what is the difference between videoing in slow motion versus slowing down a piece of regular video?
Fantastic question. Okay, so we're going to talk about frames per second. All video is a bunch of still photos put together, right? That's when they first created video. All it was is a still camera that could click, 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 click really quickly. So we are watching video at normal pace. It's typically 30 frames per second. Film, so if you go and watch a cinematic movie, it's often 24 frames per second. But a lot of video we see is 30 frames per second. So, but between those two, that is what normal speed, that's what I look like to you, 24 or 30 frames per second. Slow motion, we start doing 60 or 120 frames per second. So you can take 30 frames per second footage and slow it down, but you cannot add the missing frames, right? So it's going to appear stuttery and jerky because you've now asked 30 frames to get stretched out over a longer period of time. And there's just gaps where there are no frames. Whereas 60 frames per second stretched the same amount of time, there's twice as many frames, so it's much smoother, right? So when you're seeing the slow motion of those gorillas, or in Iceland of the waterfall, that would not be smooth if it was not shot at a higher frame rate. Now there's some incredible AI tools that might be able to like add frames, but classic video and cinematography, the more frames you shoot per second, the smoother and slower it will be. There's a point where like I don't typically film people at 120 frames per second. I film people at 60 because I want to see people do this. I don't want to see them do this. Like it's too slow, right? You have to find a balance. So the right frame per second is also good for the right action. But a waterfall, yeah, nothing's more beautiful than just like water droplets as slow as possible, right? So, but yeah, that's the difference. That's why you want to go with a higher frame rate if you can.
Perfect. Gotcha. So, I'm shooting video. Is it possible to capture maybe a single frame from that video to create a photograph? Is the quality going to be there for me?
Great question. So, the short answer is yes, is absolutely yes. Couple things go into play of that. One, the resolution. So that 4K or more is even more important if you want a still photo. And the slow motion is really important too, right? That higher frames, like so 120 or 60 frames per second, that more slow motion mean that it's easier to find, because there's more frames of someone waving their hand. It's easier to find the one frame where the hand is still. Whereas if I'm shooting 30 frames per second, it's all kind of blurry the whole time, and it's hard, even if you're paused, their hand might still be blurred. So slow motion helps what you're talking about quite a bit. Resolution helps quite a bit. It will never be as good as putting this camera in still mode or your iPhone in still mode. It will never be quite as good as that because the shutter speed changes, and that's a whole part of the exposure triangle for you photographers out there. But it can be, but finding the right moment, the right frame in the video where there's not too much motion, and being able to record it at a high enough frame rate, you can get some fantastic. I mean, we do it from every shoot. We come back from every shoot and we do a pass. We grab 30 to 100 still photos from the shoot, and sometimes those get used for marketing. So yeah, it's very possible.
Gotcha. So just a side question, have you ever used drones to take photographs professionally?
Yes. The Iceland video featured quite a bit of drone footage. I love drones. I have a commercial drone pilot's license. I've been flying for 10 years. I have to get permits wherever I go. So there's some places like I cannot bring a drone. They're really difficult to travel with, and you cannot use them on Nat Hab trips. I have to do separate kind of non-guest facing trips to get that footage. So there's some Nat Hab limitations and there's some legal limitations. Those two somewhat large things aside, they're fantastic. If you learn how to fly them the right way, if you learn how to fly safe, it is a perspective that's incredible. It's a powerful photographic or cinematic tool. There are just a lot of restrictions with them because it's so easy to buy one and you don't need any kind of licensing to actually buy one. People buy them and then fly them and do dangerous things with them. So I understand why there's restrictions, and that's why I work with those restrictions. But yeah, I do that quite a bit, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
Is there a need to set a shutter speed for your camera when you're shooting video?
Okay, this is again a classic cinematography question. Your shutter speed should be twice your frame rate. So if you are shooting at 30 frames per second, your shutter speed should be 1/60. You're shooting at 120, it should be 1/240. This will do that automatically. This will do that automatically. Auto mode on this will do that automatically, or do a version of that automatically. But classic cinematography says your shutter speed should be twice what your frame rate is.
Do you think the gimbal would be good for capturing the Northern Lights?
Ooh, Northern Lights are really tough. It is such low light that most video cannot capture it. Like if you can get really cool photos on your phone with the Northern Lights, but it requires long exposure. So unfortunately, this will probably not get the job done. This camera, very specifically, the Sony a7S III, is known for its extreme low light performance. And if you combine this camera with a very fast, like 1.4 lens, you can get a little bit of video. But if you want to capture the Northern Lights, my suggestion is time lapses. So that's where you set up your still photography camera and your guides there can show you how to do that. But it's got to be on a tripod, and you're taking photos that you then blend together into video, because you just need long exposures. You need to have that shutter speed we just talked about. You need that to be wide open. You need that to be several seconds for each photo. And when you're shooting video, it's hard to do that. So unfortunately, that's a very specialized circumstance of extreme low light that this will probably not get done. You'll get some cool dog sledding footage and potentially igloo making, and you'll get a lot of other cool footage with this, but not the Northern Lights. Yeah.
So what advice do you have for getting the right shot of an animal, since nature, of course, is completely unpredictable? Any basic advice you could give us?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I've lived my whole career by a mantra: put yourself in a position to get lucky. Um, so nature's unpredictable, like you just said. You don't know if the lion's going to jump and attack the gazelle. You don't know if the tiger's going to climb a tree. You don't know if the bear is going to spar with another bear. But the more time you put out there and the more you listen to the people who know way more than you, like I'm not an expert in any one of these animals. I've just gotten good at filming them because I listen to the people who really know those animals. The more you understand their behavior, the more you can like, okay, cool. We're downwind and that bear's hungry and there's salmon over here. Let's not be reactive. Let's go ahead and try and put ourselves in a position to get the shot. The wonderful thing is any Nat Hab photo expedition trip, of which there are many and they're growing, have incredible guides, many of whom I'm good friends with. They know this and they put guests in the position to get lucky. But it's just a mindset. I might want to sleep in this morning, and you should, because it's your vacation and you should enjoy every second of it. But when I'm working, I'm not getting a lot of sleep. I'm like, all right, well, if I'm up at 5 and I'm at the place where they saw the leopard yesterday, even though it's a 2-hour drive, I might get lucky with the leopard, right? And then that happens. So it's a mindset of put yourself in a position to get lucky.
Andrew, great advice. We really appreciate that. Unfortunately, that is going to be the last question that we do have time for today. So I'd like to throw it back to you for some closing comments.
I just really appreciate it, everyone. Great questions. We can always do another one of these webinars if you all liked it. And yeah, we can dive in on specific topics. So if you have things, send the Nat Hab team questions. But really appreciate everyone. I hope this was helpful. There's so much to learn about video. I know this was just a tiny little bit, but I hope it was interesting and you got something from this. So thank you very much.
Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time to present for us today. We've got a great overview. 101 clicked off. We'll get to another one, I hope. And I'd also like to thank everyone who tuned in today. So if you are interested in information on how you can travel with Nat Hab, please give us a call at 800-543-8917, or you can send us an email at info@nathab.com. Our adventure specialists are happy to help you out. And if you're part of a photo club and would like Nat Hab to speak to your members about nature and travel photography, email us at webinars@nathab.com. Join us Monday for our next Daily Dose of Nature. You can check out next week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I will conclude the webinar. So long, everybody. We'll see you next time.